What if the people who prefer texting over calling are not distant, rude, or emotionally unavailable at all? What if, for them, text just feels gentler on the brain? In this video, I want to talk about why some people feel oddly tense when the phone rings, why texting can feel so much safer, and how to understand this habit without turning it into a personality flaw. I've noticed this in myself before. There have been moments when my phone started ringing, and even if it was someone I liked, my whole body reacted like I had just been assigned a surprise oral exam. Nothing dramatic was happening, no real danger, just a ringtone, and yet somehow it felt like too much, too fast, too immediate. Not because I hated the person, not because I didn't care, not because I wanted to be difficult. It was more like my brain instantly went, "Can we please do this in a format where I get 6 extra seconds to be a person?" And I know I'm not the only one. People who prefer text over calls are often judged in strangely moral ways. They get seen as cold, flaky, avoidant, passive-aggressive, or bad at communication. But a lot of the time, the real issue is much less dramatic. Texting gives them room, and room matters. A phone call is live. It arrives all at once. It asks for your attention now, your tone now, your reaction now, your social smoothness now. It does not really care whether your brain is tired, whether you are halfway through something, whether you need a second to organize your thoughts, or whether you are emotionally available at all. It just rings and expects a version of you to appear immediately. For some people, that feels easy. For others, it feels like being pulled on stage without rehearsal. Texting is different. Texting lets you slow the moment down. You can read the message. You can think about what the person actually means. You can notice your own reaction before responding from it. You can rewrite the sentence that came out too sharp. You can choose clarity over speed. And that tiny gap between receiving and replying can make a huge psychological difference. I've had times where I ignored a call, then got a text from the same person, and suddenly I felt completely fine replying. Same person, same topic, same day, but a totally different nervous system response. That is what makes this interesting. It is not always about the relationship. Sometimes it is about the format. And that does not always mean social anxiety either. Sometimes it does, sure. But sometimes it is overstimulation. Sometimes it is decision fatigue. Sometimes it is the after effect of growing up in environments where saying the wrong thing too quickly got you criticized, mocked, or misunderstood. Sometimes it is just that your mind works better with language you can see instead of language you have to catch in real time. That is not dysfunction. Sometimes that is just how your processing style works. Pause for a second and ask yourself this. When someone calls you unexpectedly, what is the first thing you feel? Is it fear, pressure, annoyance, mental exhaustion? Or is it that very specific feeling of being suddenly recruited into someone else's pace? Because that answer tells you more than you think. Phone calls often come with hidden demands. Not just talk to me, but be quick, be coherent, read my tone, match my energy, respond without much buffering, and do all of that while being socially pleasant. That is a lot of invisible labor for what looks, on the surface, like a very normal interaction. Texting removes some of that strain. It gives people the ability to edit, to pace themselves, to answer thoughtfully instead of instantly. That is why, for some people, preferring text is not a sign that they dislike connection. It is a sign that they want communication in a way that feels less invasive. That is a very different thing. So let's make this useful. If you are someone who prefers texts, here is a simple system you can use so your preference does not accidentally come across as rejection. 3 steps. Name it, redirect it, soften it. Name it means saying what works better for you. Something like, I usually respond better over text. Redirect it means offering the format you can actually handle. For example, can you send me the main thing here? Soften it means reassuring the person that this is about communication style, not about them. Something like, I'm not brushing you off, I just think better this way. That alone can save a lot of misunderstandings. Here are a few message templates. If someone calls and you want to reply without answering, hey, just saw your call. Can you text me what's going on? If your brain feels overloaded, I want to respond properly, but I don't have call energy right now. Send me the main points and I'll get back to you. If it might actually be urgent. If it's time sensitive, text me a quick summary and I'll call if needed. What I like about these is that they are clear. They do not vanish. They do not create drama. They do not make the other person guess. They lower friction. Now here is the part that matters. Sometimes preferring text is just a preference, and sometimes it quietly turns into a shield. Those are not the same thing. There is nothing wrong with being someone who genuinely likes text more. A lot of thoughtful, caring, articulate people do. But if every call feels unbearable, if live conversation always sends you into panic, or if avoiding calls is starting to shrink your life, then it might be worth asking whether the habit is protecting you or limiting you. Not with shame, just with honesty. Because the goal is not to force yourself to become one of those people who happily answers every call on the second ring like they were born hosting a radio show. The goal is to understand what your brain is trying to avoid. Maybe it is overstimulation. Maybe it is fear of saying the wrong thing. Maybe it is the loss of control. Maybe it is the pressure of immediacy. Maybe it is that texting gives you the one thing calls often do not, enough time to return to yourself before you respond. And once you know that, the whole thing becomes less personal. You stop calling yourself rude or broken or antisocial. You start seeing a pattern. And patterns can be understood, they can be worked with. So if you prefer text over calls, that does not automatically mean there is something wrong with you. It may simply mean your nervous system likes a little more space, a little more clarity, and a little less speed. Honestly, that is not irrational. Some people feel most connected in live conversation. Other people feel most articulate when they are given a moment to breathe. Both are human. So the next time your phone rings and your whole body reacts like it has been handed an emotional pop quiz, do not immediately ask, "Why am I like this?" Ask something better. What does text give me that calls do not? More time, more control, more safety, more clarity, less pressure? That question tends to open much better doors. And if you can answer it, you can communicate your needs more clearly, build healthier boundaries, and maybe feel a little less guilty the next time your phone lights up and you decide that words on a screen are, for today, more than enough. If this helped you understand your own communication style a little better, subscribe for more psychology videos that make everyday behavior feel a lot less confusing.